Okay, let's get started. For today, we'll start in a tabletop position. So come down to your hands and knees and take a moment to check your alignment. So make sure that your shoulders are right over your wrists and your hips are right over your knees. Hands are shoulder width apart, knees are hip width apart. So a nice stable tabletop here. And we're going to take a few cat cows. You can take these in your own time with your own breath. This is just to loosen up your spine and start to deepen your breath. But the idea is that when you take an inhale, you want to drop your belly down, lift your tailbone, lift your chin, and gaze up at the sky. As you breathe out, do the opposite. Press the floor away with your hands, lift the middle of your back up to the sky, and tuck your tailbone under. And keep breathing in and breathing out with your movements as you arch and round your back, arching on the inhale, rounding on the exhale. Just take one or two more of those, loosening everything up. And then come back and meet me back in that neutral tabletop. Keeping your hips right above your knees, walk your hands out as far as you can. Stretch your arms long, and then drop your forehead down to the mat for extended puppy. And use your arms to really get a nice stretch along your side ribs, under your armpits. Keep your hips high right over your knees. And then walk your hands back up to tabletop. From here, we'll take a few thread the needles. So starting with your left hand, lift your left hand up to the sky, twisting to the left, gaze is up at the sky, stretch, and then thread the needle with that left hand under your right armpit. Drop your left shoulder down to the ground, drop your left temple down to the ground. And you can stay right here and sink into this. If you'd like to take it a little bit deeper, you can lift your right arm up to the sky, stretch it long. Or you can even take that right hand behind you, so wrap it around your torso to touch your fingertips to the top of your left thigh. And if you're trying that, you can even try pulling your right shoulder back a little bit. And that can feel really good. Bring your right palm back to the mat, left palm back to the mat. Do the same thing on the other side. So take your right hand up to the sky, lift it high, gaze is up. And then exhale, thread the needle, right arm under your left armpit, drop your shoulder all the way down to the ground, head comes down to the ground, and just sink into this shoulder stretch. You can try lifting your left arm up to the sky. And if you like, you can reach that around your torso, all the way around, and touch your fingertips to the top of your right thigh as you pull your left shoulder back. Just starting to loosen everything up here. Bring your hands back to the mat for tabletop. And then walk both hands forward a little bit, curl your toes under, and lift your hips up. We'll come into downward facing dog. So take your time to find your down dog. Feel free to pedal your knees out, pedal your feet out one at a time. Spread your fingers wide. You can even bend both knees at the same time to get a really nice long stretch, pressing into your hands, lifting your hips high and stretch through your ribs, through your torso. And then slowly, slowly try to straighten your legs a little bit. Doesn't matter if they go straight, and it doesn't matter if your heels are touching the ground. Not important at all. You just want to be in an inverted V shape here with your gaze at your knees. Great. And then step your right foot forward between your hands. We'll come into a low lunge. So drop your back knee down, uncurl your back toes, lift your hands up to the sky, and sink your hips down for a crescent lunge. Make sure your shoulders are dropped away from your ears as you keep reaching with your hands and letting your hips sink a little deeper. Good, and then drop your hands back down to frame your feet. Left hand stays down, lift your right arm up to the sky, twisting to the right, stretch it high. Great, and bring the right hand back down to the mat. Step back to a quick down dog, lift your hips high, and then step your left foot forward into a low lunge. Drop your back knee down, uncurl your back toes, and lift your hands up to the sky for a crescent lunge. reaching up with your hands and even reaching back a little bit. It's called a crescent lunge because you're making a crescent shape from your fingertips all the way along the curve of your back to your toe in the back. Drop your hands back down to the mat to frame your foot. Right hand stays on the mat. Lift your left hand high for a lunge twist. Press your right hand into the mat and stretch long with your left hand. Very nice. Bring that left hand back down to the mat and step back to downward facing dog. Lift your hips up high. Spread your fingertips wide. And then look between your hands and we'll just slowly, step by step, walk up to the top of your mat to come into ragdoll. So bring your feet about hip distance apart, feet are parallel. Grasp your opposite elbows, bend your knees as much as you like so that your torso is resting on your thighs. And then let your head drop down, let your neck relax. Let your entire torso, shoulders, elbows relax. The crown of your head is pointing towards the mat here. And you can even sway a little bit, shake your head, yes and no. And if you like, you can play with straightening your legs a little bit more to get a little more hamstring stretch if that feels good. And release your arms and slowly, slowly come up to standing, one vertebrae at a time, bringing your head up last. Great, bring your feet together, big toes are touching in mountain pose. Lengthen the crown of your head towards the sky, drop your shoulders back and down. And let's take one really big inhale. Inhale, sweep your arms up, overhead, palms touch, look up. Good. And as you exhale, drop your right hand down to your side. Keep your left arm up and stretch over to the side. Standing side stretch here. So your left bicep is over your left ear. Slide your right hand down the side of your body. And just take a breath here to get a really nice stretch along the entire left side of your waist and ribs. Good. And then inhale, both arms back up, stretch high, and bring your left hand down to your side. Reach your right arm over, bicep is close to your ear. Make sure you're not caving in, but you're keeping your chest nice and open. Good, and then inhale, both arms back up, stretch high. As you exhale, fold all the way down, dropping your head down for a forward fold. Bring your fingertips out in front of you, fingertips touching the mat, and bend your right knee. Keep your left leg straight, right fingertips on the mat, and then lift your left arm up to the sky. Standing hamstring stretch. So right fingertips are on the floor, right knee is bent as much as you like to get a really good stretch in the entire back side of your left leg. And let's reverse that. Bring both fingertips down to the mat, bend your left knee, straighten your right knee, and reach your right hand up to the sky. Bending that left knee as much as you like, twisting around. Beautiful. And then both hands back down to the mat. As you inhale, sweep your arms out to the sides and all the way over overhead. Palms up, and exhale back to mountain. Step one foot back to take a really wide stance here. It doesn't matter which leg you step back, but you want your feet to be 3 or 4 feet apart. Feet are parallel, toes are pointing forward. And I want you to take your hands behind you and interlace your fingers behind you. If you can touch your palms together, that's great. If not, that's fine too. Either way, interlace your fingers, pull your shoulders back, squeeze your shoulder blades behind you, and gaze up as you inhale, opening across your collarbones. And then as you exhale, hinge at your hips and fold forward, slowly coming down, all the way down, and let your hands just drop over your head in the direction of the floor. And this is a wide leg stretch modification. You want your legs to be really strong and engaged. Quads are lifting your kneecaps up here, but your upper body is just falling with gravity. The crown of your head is pointing towards the floor, Your hands are dropping down closer to the mat. And try to let your neck and head be really loose here. Good, and then on your next inhale, use your hands behind you and your core to slowly pull yourself all the way back up to standing. Beautiful. Shake your hands out. Step back up to the top of your mat in mountain pose. Inhale, sweep your arms up, palms touch. Exhale, fold forward, dive down. Head drops down. You can bend your knees. And then plant your hands on the mat and step both feet back. Lift your hips up to downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Gaze is at your knees. Fingers are spread wide. And you're lifting your hips up as high as you can towards the sky. Good. From here, we're going to move into a little series of strength and core moves. So it's going to get a little more challenging, but it's going to have a huge benefit for you. So to start, step your right foot forward in between your hands into a lunge. Keep that back knee off the mat. This is a high lunge. Make sure you feel really stable in your feet. And then as you inhale, lift your arms up to the sky to a high lunge. Let your hips sink low. Take your arms into cactus arms. So elbows are at a 90-degree angle. Fingers are spread wide. And with those cactus arms, pull your hands and your elbows back just an inch or two as you gaze up and inhale, opening across your chest. As you exhale, we'll come to eagle arms. So left arm comes under the right. Wrap your arms around each other. If you can, try to touch your fingertips or your palms together. And with those eagle arms, as you inhale, lift your elbows up towards the sky as you let your hips sink just a little bit lower into this. Stay with it. Feel that opposition. Good, and then cactus your arms, open up, gaze is up, open across your chest. And then bring your hands back down to frame your foot, step your right foot back and lift your hips up to downward facing dog. Take a breath. Good. And same thing on the left, step your left foot forward into a high lunge. Make sure your feet feel really stable before you come up. And then inhale your arms up to a high lunge, sink your hips down a little bit lower. Bring your arms to cactus arms, fingers spread wide, elbows are nice and strong, 90 degrees. And inhale, pull your hands back, pull your elbows back, open across your chest as you gaze up. And eagle arms, right arm under left, wrap your arms around each other, palms touch if you can. As you inhale, lift your elbows up, sink your hips a little bit deeper, and feel your shoulder blades separating in the back as you do that. Good, and then open back up to cactus arms, get one more nice stretch there. And plant your hands back down on the mat, frame your foot, step your left foot back to downward facing dog. Beautiful, take a breath. And shift your weight forward to plank pose. So you want to find a really strong plank. Your shoulders are right over your wrists or a little bit forward. Your body is in one straight line. And we're going to do a plank hold for about 30 seconds. And ideally, you want to be working up to a minute or longer plank holds, but we'll start with 30 seconds here. So I'm going to start the clock now. Stay in this plank. This is one of the best moves, biggest bang for your buck. You get core work. You're getting a lot of arm strength and stability. So stay with it. It's worth it. You're doing great. Keep breathing. Focusing on deep inhales, deep exhales. If you do nothing but a 30-second or minute plank every single day, it will have a huge effect on your core strength. Great, you did it. Drop your knees down, take a rest for a moment. And we're gonna come back into that plank and we're just gonna do 3 push-ups, nothing terrible. So come back into your plank, Shift your weight forward. So come up on your tippy toes so your shoulders are over your fingertips, over your fingernails. And 3 push-ups. Keep your elbows tucked in tight. So here we go. Inhale first, and then exhale, lower down with control. That's 1. Inhale. Exhale down for 2. Beautiful. Inhale up. Exhale down for 3. All the way back up to your plank. And now we're going to lower down really slowly with control, all the way down as slow as you possibly can. So keep your elbows tucked in, control it, control it. Don't flop down. And your chest and belly should touch at the same time. Awesome work. Take a rest here for a moment, take a breath. And then with your hands underneath your shoulders, we'll just take a cobra to reverse a little bit of that shoulder protraction. So pressing into your hands, lift your chest up, pull your shoulders back, squeeze your shoulders behind you, lift your gaze. This should feel really good. Good, and then lower yourself all the way back down. Press into your hands, and we'll come into a quick child's pose here. So bring your knees as wide as your mat, toes are touching behind you, and drop your glutes down to your heels. And then walk your hands forward, drop your forehead down, and take a rest. Breathing really deeply into your lower abdomen, into your lower back. Great, and then when you're ready, come back up into plank pose again. This time we're gonna move into some side planks. So find your plank pose, really strong, shoulders over wrists, and then roll onto the outer edge of your right foot, coming into a side plank on the right. Now you can stack both feet on top of each other, or you can move that top foot behind your bottom foot for more stability, or you can bring that top foot out in front of you and place it on the mat for even more stability. So they're all side plank, whichever one works best for you. Lift your left arm up to the sky, and we'll just hold here for a moment, keeping your hips high, staying as stable and balanced as you can. And we're going to take some twists. These are oblique side plank twists. So you're going to touch your left hand to your right thumb. That's 1. And then lift up. Reach down, touch your thumb. That's 2. Lift up. Reach down, touch your thumb. 3. Inhale up. 2 more. Reach down, twist. 4. Reach down, twist. And 5. Great. Come back to the middle. Drop your knees down, take a rest. And we'll move on to the other side. So side plank on the left. Plant your left foot on the mat. Roll onto the outer edge of your left foot. Again, stack your feet or find a foot position that's comfortable for you. Inhale your right arm up to the sky. Lift your hips high. And we'll take 5 oblique twists. So look down at that left thumb. That's your target. Inhale up. Exhale, twist and touch your thumb with your fingertips. Inhale up. Reach down, touch. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, 3. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, touch your thumb. 4. 1 more, you're doing great. Inhale up. Exhale down for 5. And inhale, reach up and back to center. Bring your knees down and take a rest. All right, our next core move is called dolphin push-ups, which some of you might be familiar with, but they're a little different and they really target some areas that are hard to get. So I love to do these. You want to start out, it's a downward dog position, but with your forearms on the mat. So if you're starting from your hands and knees, bring your forearms down to the mat, elbows about shoulder width apart, interlace your hands, thumbs on top, and then step back with your toes touching. You're in an inverted V. Walk your feet as close as you can to your head, and then lift your hips up high as you let your heels sink down in the direction of the mat. To start out with, your biceps should be next to your ears. So you're lifting your hips high and dropping your heels back. So if you want to watch me do one, and then we'll do 10 together, this is what it looks like. You come up on your toes, shift your weight forward, and touch your chin to your thumbs. And then shift your hips back and drop your heels down, returning to the first position. So let's all start there, and we'll do 10 together. So inhale, keeping your hips lifted high. Exhale, rock forward, touch your chin to your thumbs. That's 1. Inhale, lift your hips. Exhale, come forward 2. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward 3. Inhale, lift your hips. Exhale, touch your thumbs 4. Inhale, up. Exhale, down 5. Lift your hips up. Exhale, down 6. Inhale, up. Heels come down. Forward for 7. You're almost done. Inhale, hips up, rock back. Exhale, rock forward for 8. Lift up. Exhale, forward for 9. Inhale, up. Exhale, forward for 10. And lift your hips up one last time. Beautiful. Drop your knees down. Spread your knees to the outer edges of your mat. Toes touch behind you, and drop your head down for child's pose. Great work. Try to even out your breathing here in child's pose, breathing deeply into your lower abdomen, into your lower back. Beautiful work. And we are done with our core and strength segment. So curl your toes under, lift your hips up high, coming into downward dog. Take a breath here. Spread your fingers wide, lift your hips up high. And we're going to come into lizard. So if you have a block nearby, that's going to come in handy. So to get into this, move your right hand a little closer to your left in downward facing dog, and then step your right foot outside your right hand. So you're in a lunge with both hands on the inside of your right foot. Drop your back knee down to the mat, uncurl your toes. And you have a few options here. You can keep your arms straight like I am now and just drop your head if you feel a good stretch in your hips there. If you'd like a little more, you can take a block and put it on any height that works for you and rest your elbows and forearms on that block. Or if you need an even deeper stretch, you can just drop your elbows and forearms all the way down to the mat and drop your head. Whichever one feels good for you. We're going to do about 90 seconds here. So settle in. In this pose, it's totally fine to let your right foot roll a little bit onto the outer edge of your foot and let your knee open out to the side. And that can help you sink a little bit deeper into this. So as you settle into this, focus on your breathing. And I want you to start to lengthen your exhales. So if you're breathing in for 4, try to make your exhales a count of 6 or 8. With each exhale, push every last bit of air you can out of your lungs, and then pause before you take your next inhale. Close your eyes, turn your attention inward, and try to release into this stretch. Really don't get the benefits of any stretch until you're in it for at least a minute or so, because that's when you can really start to release. So we're going to stay with this. Just got about 20 more seconds here. You're doing great. Stay with your breathing. Good, and then we'll slowly start to come out of this. Move your block aside if you were using it as we move over to the other side. So plant your hands, step your right foot back, lift your hips up to downward facing dog. And for the other side, move your left hand closer to your right and step your left foot outside your left hand. Drop your right knee down, uncurl your toes. And again, find your lizard. So it can be with your arms straight. If you feel a good hip stretch there, just stay right there, drop your head, and start to breathe. I'll start my timer, 90 seconds here, or you can do that intermediate with the block under your elbows, or you can have your elbows all the way down on the mat. Wherever you are, you can let that left knee just fall out to the side a little bit, even let your foot roll out if that feels good. Close your eyes, drop your head down. Come back to that deep, intentional breathing. Breathing in for 4 and out for 8 if you can, or if you can't do 8, try for 6. Pausing at the end of each inhale, pausing at the end of each exhale. This kind of breathing helps to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and it really helps to release all that fascia and muscle fiber that's got a lot of tension in it and is holding you back. And we're just over a minute in, about 20 seconds left. Imagine you're just like a wet noodle draped over a fork. Let everything relax. And slowly start to make your way out of this. Move your block to the side. Plant your hands in front of you and step back to downward facing dog. Lift your hips up high. Next, we're going to move into pigeon, which is similar to lizard, but really stretches some different parts of your hips. So bring your right knee forward and set it down right behind your right wrist. Now your front leg is on the outer edge of your calf. And then drop your back knee down and use your toes behind you to walk your hips down as far as you can. If your right hip is off the mat, if there's space between your hip and the mat, feel free to put a folded blanket, folded towel, or even a block underneath that hip. I'm going to start our 90 seconds now as you make your way into this. So let your hips sink down, lengthen your spine up long, and then you can start to fold forward. You can come down onto your forearms. Feel free to use that block under your arms if that feels good. You can even drop your head all the way down and rest your forehead on your hands or on the mat. Well, this is a pose that you really have to stay in for, again, at least a minute, ideally longer, to start to get the benefit of it. Come back to that breathing pattern, breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8. Long exhales, pushing all the air out each time. Breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8. Just about 20 seconds left. Let your hips sink down just a little bit closer to the mat. Good, and then slowly start to make your way out of this. Bring your hands back to the mat, step your right foot back, reset in downward facing dog, lift your hips high. And then bend your left knee, bring it behind your left wrist, finding your pigeon on the left. Walk your back toes back to let your hips sink down. Definitely tuck a blanket or a block underneath that left hip if there's any space there. You really want to feel supported here. We'll start our 90 seconds in this pose, so make your way down to whatever arm position is comfortable for you. That can be on your forearms or with your head dropped all the way down to the mat. Make sure you're not holding any tension in your shoulders, in your jaw, in your forehead, in your tongue. If your front foot starts to go numb, that's totally normal. It'll come back when we release the pose. Don't worry about that. And again, return to your 4 to 8 breathing. So breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8. In for 4. Open your mouth, let it out for 8. Just about 20 seconds left. Good, and then this time to come out of this, just roll onto your left hip. And we're gonna come into a seated position. So our next pose is butterfly. So keep that block handy, you'll need it for this one. And for this one, I want you to bring the soles of your feet together in front of you, and they can be pretty far out in front of you. If you have tight hips, you can start there. If you'd like a little deeper stretch, you can move them closer to your hips. Either way, interlace your fingers and bring your interlaced hands behind your feet, and then use that leverage to lengthen your spine up. Pull your shoulders back, let your knees open out, and gaze slightly up. And then fold forward over your feet and use your hands to pull your torso down, pulling your chest towards your toes as you come down. Once you've reached the furthest point you can come down, I want you to release your hands and actually let your palms face up towards the sky and drop your head. And if you have your block, you can put your block on your toes or in front of your toes and let your head rest on your block. Close your eyes and we'll start timing here. We're just going to do 1 minute in this pose. Let your head be heavy. Let your hands relax. So you're not pulling or bouncing or forcing this at all. You're just letting gravity slowly pull you down and let you sink into this. Come back to your breath. Just about 20 seconds left. All you need to do is release and relax as much as you possibly can. No effort needed here. And start to slowly come out. Straighten out your right leg. Keep your left foot on the inside of your right thigh. And we'll just do a couple of forward folds here. So inhale, sweep your arms up, palms touch, stretch long, and then exhale, reach forward with your fingertips towards your toes. And if you can, grasp your toes with a C grip or grasp your ankle or your shin, whatever works for you. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and exhale, fold forward, drop your head. Take one more breath here as you sink a little bit deeper. And release. We'll switch legs. So straighten your left leg out, bring your right foot into the inside of your left thigh. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead, spine is long. Exhale, fold forward, flex your left toes towards you as you reach for that foot. Inhale, again, lengthen your spine, pull your shoulders back, chest is forward. And then as you exhale, drop your head down and fold, relax. Take another breath to release a little bit deeper over that leg. Good, and then bring both legs out in front of you. Legs are long, toes are flexed, and we'll do one last forward fold here. So inhale, sweep your arms up, and exhale, fold over both legs, grasping the outside of your feet or your ankles or shins. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold your head down. Great, and release. Bend your knees, put your feet flat on the mat about hip distance apart, and lay all the way back on your back. Bring your heels really close to your glutes so that you can touch your heels, your ankles with your fingertips. And we'll just do one bridge here. So start to lift your tailbone, curl your tailbone up, and then lift your lower back, lift your middle back. And as you lift your upper back, you can even start to walk your shoulders underneath you and interlace your hands behind your back to get a little more lift. Keeping your knees hip width apart, don't let them splay out. Squeeze your glutes, lift your hips up as high as you can, really getting that upper spine off the mat. Lift and squeeze, pressing your triceps into the mat, and release your hips down. Beautiful. Pull your knees into your chest and give yourself a few circles with your lower back. Rock from side to side. Good. And then bring your feet back down to the mat. Let your knees open wide. Again, this is a reclined butterfly. So soles of your feet are touching, knees are falling out to the sides. Then you can raise your arms overhead and grasp elbows with opposite hands and just release here. This is reclined goddess or reclined butterfly. Taking time to breathe as deeply as you can into your belly and let it all release. And we'll take some side twists here. So pull your knees into your chest. Stretch your right leg long and then take your bent left knee across your body all the way over, twisting to the right. And then let your left arm stretch out to the left. Then you can gaze at that left hand if it's comfortable for your neck. So this is a full body twist. Right leg is long on the mat. Twisting from your lower spine all the way up to the crown of your head. And bring both knees back into your chest. Stretch your left leg long and your bent right knee comes across your body all the way over to the left. Stretch your right arm out to the right. And gaze at that right hand if you can. Good, and bring both knees back into your chest. Squeeze tight. And then release your feet. Let your legs be as wide as your mat. Let your arms flop out as wide as your mat or wider. And we'll just take 1 minute here in a final relaxation to absorb all of the benefits of our practice. So close your eyes, let everything melt into the mat. No need to control your breathing. No need to control anything, just relax. Start to slowly bring some movement back into your hands and your feet. Feel free to take a long body stretch. If you want to stretch your hands up over your head and stretch your whole body nice and long. And really slowly bring your knees into your chest and roll onto one side or the other. And keeping your eyes closed, come up to whatever seated position is most comfortable for you. And we'll just take one last breath together. So once you're in your seated position, bring your hands to touch at heart center. Drop your shoulders back and down. Let all the air out of your lungs. And let's take one inhale through your nose. Inhale deeply, fill your lungs, fill your belly. And open your mouth, release, exhale, bow your head down. Namaste.